one teacher in particular, a guy named John Wilson, who's your favorite genius you've never heard of, um, really taught us well, not about making documentaries and things like that, even though I was studying acting and theater, but John taught us about the transformation from ritual to theater and the role that each plays in society. And that sounds esoteric and very artistic, but if you look at ritual, it was an experience where people were doing things which they thought were connected to natural processes, maybe. You and I do this podcast, and in our minds, that's what makes the sun rise tomorrow. Okay, well, accurate or not, what what the theater experience was all of a sudden we were doing this not just because we thought it made the sunrise tomorrow, but somebody was watching, and all of a sudden this became performative. And that's a fascinating transition where we go from something that we think is connected directly to a natural process to something that we're performing to communicate something about that experience and natural process to somebody who's watching. All of a sudden it's a different communicative world. Essentially, we're not just doing this because we think the sun's going to rise. We're doing this because we want to communicate something to a viewer. So that transformation was very interesting for somebody who's been on stages throughout his life, because I started thinking to myself, what am I communicating and why? And in each moment, what is this thing that I'm doing? I started to theorize and think constantly about performance and communication and theater, and what it means and what it does for us. So that's what John Wilson taught me.
And are you involved in any movies now, or any plans to do any more movies in the future?
Yeah, we've talked about it. There's a documentary that's being batted around from a couple different sources about the Teen Dance Ordinance, which is a Seattle law that existed on the books. I don't know if you're familiar with this whole
I'm not.
saga. This is I mean, this could be the next 3 hours of our lives, but and succinctly said, back in the 80s and into the 90s, there was a law on the books in the city of Seattle called the Teen Dance Ordinance. And it essentially was a law that was rooted in morality. And I say that with that affect because I want to put it in air quotes. The idea was that if the city prevented people of all ages from attending music events, dances, concerts, what have you, if they prevented them from attending those events together, that they would prevent immorality from happening in the city. It would prevent, people from getting drunk or stoned at events. It would protect the youth. Protecting the youth is
So
always
like a Footloose movie sort of
like
thing.
a footloose movie come to life in the city of
Yeah.
Seattle. So there's a number of people have documented this over the years, both in print and in interviews and whatnot. But there's a podcast called "Let the Kids Dance," which came out this year, which is quite brilliant, and definitely it's a short form, 7-part podcast that people should listen to get the full story and the history of the Teen Dance Ordinance. But basically, my friends and I did our very best to overturn this law, and in fact ended up not only overturning it, but my friend Dave and I co-wrote the law that replaced the Teen Dance Ordinance in the city of Seattle. So the law that allows for music to happen is something that my friend Dave and I wrote. And I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a legal guy, I'm just a guy. And we wrote this law and submitted it to the city through the appropriate channels, and it ended up getting passed. And it's a whole process. You'd have to listen to the podcast to get it, but there's talk of doing a documentary about the Teen Dance Ordinance and the struggle and the fight against and for the all ages dance ordinance that replaced the Teen Dance Ordinance.
Nice. So next, let's switch to your nonprofit. It's called a 100 for Haiti, right?
Yeah.
Does that name mean anything? Is there any significance in the name, or is this a name?
No, that's a great question. When 100 for Haiti formed, I went to Haiti right after the earthquake in 2010, which was one of the greatest natural disasters, certainly in our hemisphere and in world history. It was cataclysmic. And I sailed there on a sailboat with some friends to provide medical supplies and food there. And when I got there, I realized that there was more work that needed to be done. And there was a doctor that I met who was giving away medicine and medical care for free in his neighborhood in Port-au-Prince, a very poor neighborhood in Port-au-Prince. And I decided to try to help him. And what I thought was, if I could get 100 people to donate $1,000 or more to Haitian relief, I'd give all that money to this guy. I'd have $100,000 to give to him. These 100 people would be the 100 for Haiti. And then it would be quite remarkable that we'd raised all this money and given it to this guy. Well, the people who started responding to requests for donations weren't wealthy people who had $1,000. There were people who had $100 or $10, $5, $2, $1. I kept the name 100 for Haiti because I just liked it.
Mhm.
One thing that I want to do is rebrand it, to be honest. I want to rebrand it around the 100. So maybe it'll be 100 Days of Giving for Haiti, or 100 Haitians you've never heard of, a history lesson, 100 of this, 100 of that. I've wanted to rebrand it for a while, but I've been so busy working on other projects. I haven't been able to do that sort of behind the scenes rebranding. But I just like the alliterative, if that's the right word,
Yeah.
100 for Haiti. There's a lot of H's in there. Kind of an interesting sounding name, and people ask about it. So
Yeah. So correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly from my history and back in college, Haiti was colonized by the French. The French had a bunch of Haitian slaves, and the Haitian general D. Baptiste, I think, was the only person who actually like rebelled against an actual
yeah,
colonizer.
yeah. Well, I mean, basically, in short form, the Haitians decided they'd had enough, and they overthrew their slave masters, basically. So the history of Haiti is quite extensive, but Haiti is the only country where that's ever
Yeah.
worked, as far as I
And with
know.
the French, like, what's going on? There's no way. How are these people beating us? This is impossible.
Oh,
Something like that.
it wasn't just the French. It wasn't just the
The whole
colonizer
whole
there. It
world.
was the United States. I mean, read the congressional record from the mid 1800s, and the congressmen are aghast with how these former slaves in Haiti have managed to overthrow their oppressors. Why were they aghast? Because they were slave owners. They were terrified. They were terrified that if the Haitians did this just off our border, what happens if slaves on plantations in the American South got wind of this? And all of a sudden, you know, you know, as the joke goes, peace is bad for business. Meaning, what happens if all of a sudden the slaves in the United States wanted a different deal, and instead of the warfare mindset that slavery presented, what if they wanted to be in control of their own lives and bring peace to their own lives?
And
That would be bad for that business.
it's not like Haiti's like 20,000 miles away. It's like right on like a short boat ride, right?
It's literally right off the coast of Florida,
Yeah.
basically. It's just a couple hours away. So, these slave owners, these politicians were thinking to themselves, this is potentially bad for business, and we don't want this.